Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Patmos. It is May the 14th, 2026, and I am sorry to say it has happened yet again. Another hospital shooting in the United States where the other day, 2 days ago, a nurse, 27-year-old nurse and mother and wife, was murdered in a hospital parking lot by a deranged gunman. And it's only been about a month since there was a last hospital shooting. I posted about it at that time and did a video on this topic, which is below in the text. And for those of you who don't know, I'm very familiar with this issue because in 2014, I was the CEO of the Rockwood Clinic in Spokane, Washington, when a gunman walked into my cancer center and opened fire, killing his estranged wife and himself in front of dozens of patients, staff, doctors, nurses, and even including children. It was a catastrophic event and a defining event in my life and in my healthcare career as a physician executive. Since 2014, I have been writing, posting, and talking about healthcare violence and the need for hospital systems and hospitals to be more proactive and more vigilant about protecting hospital staff. This is not just about protecting nurses and doctors, it's about protecting patients from violence and their family members and visitors who just happen to be innocent bystanders in these events. This is a very frustrating thing for me because I've talked about this relentlessly now for 13 years and have spoken with many other physician executives and also non physician executives and healthcare CEOs. And I can tell you, I'm very disappointed in the lack of response of hospitals and health systems to take this issue as seriously as they should. Why should hospital CEOs now consider this to be job number one? I don't care. Your budget is not your top priority. Your staffing ratios are not your top priority. Your strategic plan and trying to figure out how to align physicians without violating the anti-kickback and Stark rules is not your number one priority. Your number one priority, hospital CEO, is to protect your patients, their family members, and your staff from violence. Why has that become so important? Because healthcare settings and hospitals in particular have become one of the most common locations for workplace violence. In fact, a recent study in the Journal of the American Medical Association documented just how bad a problem this is. It is well established now that doctors and nurses are at greater risk of being shot at work than police officers are. Now, stop and think about that. Law enforcement is a safer job than being a doctor or a nurse in this day and age. And that is ridiculous and unacceptable. And something needs to be done about it. And the only way anything is going to be done about it is with you, hospital CEOs and healthcare CEOs, recognizing how serious this problem is and doing something about it. I was told in 2014 by a health system executive that we don't want the hospital to feel like an armed camp. I appreciate that. But the reality is, hospitals have become kill zones, and the people being killed are largely doctors and nurses. They're terrified. And the first hospital that actually does something about this is really going to make a bold statement that will reassure the staff. This is a long overdue for area of attention. So, in the video that was posted by the chief nurse officer and the chief medical officer of the hospital in Tuscaloosa, where the shooting occurred the other day, they said this was an unimaginable event. No, it's not. This is not an unimaginable event. It's a tragic event. It's an event we hope will never happen, but it's very imaginable. In fact, it should be expected. Uh, Hospital shootings are so common now that this should be expected at any and every hospital in the United States, and they need to be prepared for it. The CMO and CNO also asked for suggestions. Well, here's my suggestion. What we did at Rockwood after the shooting is I obtained not one, two complete outside consultant security assessments, and they came in and they did a complete evaluation of our campus, all our locations, and all of our security protocols and security equipment, and they made a number of very important recommendations, including better lighting and better security, controlling access and egress, and that sort of thing. So, if you want a suggestion, folks in Tuscaloosa, get a security review and implement the the recommendations. It's the CEO of the hospital wrote a very nice letter on the website saying that they're now going to begin escorting staff to their cars. Well, now is nice, but it's 2 days too late. They needed to be doing this before. This is such an important thing that it's. I think this is job number one for a hospital CEO. If you're a search executive interviewing candidates for a hospital CEO, you better ask them how they plan to handle violence on hospital campuses. If you're a board member and you're hiring a hospital CEO, you better ask them how they plan to handle this problem. If you're a board member and you're evaluating your CEO's performance, ask them what have they done to increase safety for patients, staff, and family members on the hospital campus. And that includes not just inside the hospital, it includes the parking lots and the areas outside the hospital as well. And then finally, if finally, this needs to be this needs to be a national priority because it is going to get worse. Why will this problem get worse? Here's why. First of all, mental health services and funding for mental health is being cut dramatically. Most mental health care is rendered through Medicaid, and because very often patients with mental health issues are not well off and they're covered by Medicaid. Well, Medicaid has just been cut dramatically, and the cutbacks in mental health services are significant. We already don't provide adequately for mental health patients in this country, and it's only going to get worse. That's reason number one. And by the way, the shooter in this case was obviously mentally ill. The second issue is access to firearms, particularly for people who shouldn't be getting them, like mentally ill patients. There's no effort right now to really control firearms in this country or make them more difficult. In fact, just the opposite. Just the other day, it was revealed that the president and his family are instituting or developing an Amazon sort of business where you can order guns online and you can go shopping and order rifles and assault weapons, guns, and a various equipment online. That's going to increase access to guns. We clearly have an administration now that has no sense of how terrifying this has become. And so they're making it, if anything, easier for people who shouldn't have weapons to get weapons. Now, before you say I'm just some bleeding heart liberal, that is not the case. I support the Second Amendment. I believe people should have the right to keep and bear arms. Certain people, not people who are violent criminals, not people who are unstable and should not have a firearm. And I believe that everybody who has a firearm should be registered and licensed and trained. And if you fail to meet those kinds of criteria, you shouldn't be allowed to have a gun. I'm all for much more strict gun control than we have today because we have to do something about this. But on the other hand, I also support the intent of the Constitution. But I don't think we're way off on the extreme on this right now. We have no controls, and we're allowing anybody and everybody to get guns. And now Trump wants to actually sell guns to people online and have his kids profit from it, since they are the ones who are going to own the company. It's like Instagun instead of Instacart. Now we're going to have Instagun. You just go online and order up an assault weapon. Well, I don't want to get off course here. We're back to healthcare, but the point is now, I'm not a hospital CEO or healthcare CEO anymore. I'm done with that phase of my life. But I'm talking directly to healthcare CEOs right now. This is your responsibility. You healthcare CEOs always talk a lot about patient safety and our commitment to patient safety and creating a culture of safety. Bullshit. Unless you do something about safety on hospital campuses to protect your staff, your nurses, your doctors, your patients, and their family, you're not really putting safety first. That's all fluff and talk. Do your jobs. Do something about this today. And board members, hold your CEOs accountable. We have to do something about this today. We can't wait for the government because the government is doing nothing. This is where hospitals need to step up right now. Get a security assessment, implement their findings, and start protecting doctors and nurses. They will appreciate it. You have a hard time hiring nurses? Maybe if you showed that you cared enough about them to protect them, you might have a little better time hiring nurses. This is Dr. Patmos, and that was my rant for today.